Hello and welcome everyone. It's Sarah and Ayla here, Harnessing Happiness. Thank you so much for joining me again. It's lovely to have you as my listeners across the globe. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have the wonderful Deb Flanagan with me. And as you all know, my guests do a far better job of introducing themselves than myself. So I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Deb to introduce herself. Deb, over to you. Please do introduce yourself to my wonderful audience.
Thank you, Sarah. It's beautiful and wonderful to be here. I appreciate your time and interest in me being a guest here. So thank you. I'm Deb from Wisdom Arts, based in Brisbane, Australia. And Sarah and I met through being teachers in Insight Timer. So that's how we actually connected. I am a spiritual artist and quantum alchemist, and I love assisting women how to tap into intuition and creativity through intuitive arts and quantum healing, and also symbols.
Oh, that's wonderful. So could you expand upon that then, Deb? What does all of that mean? Can you explain that to my audience? I'm mindful that something just dipped out there. And it's quite interesting because we've just re-recorded this section as well for all of those of you who are listening, and it dipped out at exactly the same time. And that's very interesting when you start talking about the quantum.
Wow. Okay. So the quantum field is obviously everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. So everything is vibration and frequency and energy. And working in the quantum means that, you don't have to be in the same room for things to shift, right? We, just like you and I are here talking on the other side of the globe, the quantum works on frequency. So it's incredibly powerful, and everything is frequency, including symbols themselves. So the symbols that I channel, the poems that I channel, it all holds a particular vibration.
It's fascinating, isn't it, when you start to understand and work with the quantum, and as I always say, there's so much more in the unseen than there is in the seen, just because we see the physical being, because that's how the vibrations create the physical. But when you contemplate that there's so much more out there, I mean, why not? Just because we can't see it, it's like, yes, we are talking at this moment, we are recording. I'm in the UK, you're in Australia, and how does it work? And that's invisible, isn't it? Really? It's just so, folks, think about it like that. We are communicating through those energy vibrations, and you can't see it. How it does it? It's magic. But there is so much more to it than that when you start to work energetically. And like Deb said, it's about it's our thoughts, words, actions, what we radiate out there, impact, and they go along these vibrational frequencies, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I can't see auras, for example, but I can feel them. So I act as a conduit when I'm working with clients. So I can feel and help them through spirit's help, of course, and through the quantum field, help to shift their energy. So, yeah, we can't always, everyone has different gifts, right? Some
Yeah.
people can see auras, some people can feel auras. Some people might not be able to see or feel, but their pure intention is enough to shift it. Like recently, I had a kinesiologist do a healing on me, and I could feel the vibration. He himself cannot feel the energy, but I could feel it running up and down my central column. So yeah, even if you can't see or feel, if the intention is pure and the intention is there and the trust is there, right? It's amazing what shifts can occur.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. You reminded me of a session I had with a client a couple of weeks ago, and she'd gotten a blockage, and we were talking about it. And I said, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And she described it as a stone. And we went through this whole deep healing process of reworking it, and she could visualize this energy, and it just changed shape, it changed color, it eventually became something else. Oh, and I'm going tingly now. And this energy sort of cleared, and it was a blockage she'd had for a long time. And through this process of identification, reshaping, reframing, and creating putting a different identity to it, good Lord, I have all the bumps on my arm as I'm talking about this. Because that's what channeling's about, isn't it, Deb? It's that connection, it's that messaging, it's recognizing all of that. But yeah, it's when you do and you can you can reshape it, rework it, think of it in a different way, you can clear stuff because so much negativity can be attached to problems that manifest as physical ailments that you can shift, but that there's an important part of belief in that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I I've I've been fortunate to work with the majority of clients, probably 99% of the clients I've worked with. I've been fortunate that they've had that trust and they've had that faith. And I think only maybe on one occasion, perhaps, I could feel the walls up. You know, if you feel and sense energy, you can really feel if
Yeah.
somebody's got their guard up, right?
Mhm.
And it's really important that a client trusts you, right? Because if they're not going to trust you, or they're not going to be open, and they're not going to you know, the shifts won't occur, right? Because I like to call it a three-way dance, right? Between yourself, the client, and spirit, right?
Mhm.
So the client has to pretty much meet you halfway, and then spirit does the rest, right? Or the quantum, whatever you want to call it. But the client has to kind of meet you halfway, and that's by their trust and faith in the session, and being open and vulnerable is really
Mhm.
important as well,
Yeah,
as you
and
would
I would
know.
say
Yeah.
that that echoes with coaching as well, because if
Yeah.
you approach anything with that, "Well, it's not going to work," it won't. I mean, that is a
No.
self-fulfilling prophecy, and,
Yeah.
whatever you think you can, whatever you think you can't, because that is what you get. You deliver it out, you receive it back. And if you
Yeah.
go into something, with healing and open mind and coaching with open minds, the magic starts to happen because you allow the energy to flow. It can flow
Yes.
through you, start to process, you think about things in a different way, you reframe them, you reshape them, you re-experience them. And we are all energy, aren't we, at the end of the day? And things get blocked. It's natural. It's like
Yeah.
putting the wrong fuel into a car, isn't it? And it'll get blocked and choked up. And if you go and sort your car out, why wouldn't you sort yourself out and have the same thought process around it? You put your trust in the belief in the garage most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, there's so much that we can, well, we don't know, but when we start to
Mm.
explore, becomes it's revealed, isn't it? You start to experience the world in a completely different way when you have that open mind, when you have that trust, when you expect the unexpected as well. Because this
Yeah.
so, yeah, put my teeth back in, Sarah. Because you channel symbols as well, don't you? Which I find fascinating. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, Deb, but let's let's discuss the symbols as well, and let's interweave it all in and out because it's fascinating stuff.
Mhm. Yes, I channel symbols. So, just a little bit of that journey and how that evolved. Back in 2016, I separated from my long-term, 20-year partner at the time, and I was looking for more meaning and purpose in my life. I
Hmm.
think, after marriage and two children, often us women can get a little bit lost, and
Hmm.
we've kind of lost ourselves through duty to everybody else. And so I think I was basically searching for more meaning in life, and that led me on a path of discovering Palawa, which is a healing pathway that helps to activate the 12 strands. Most humans are only operating on 2 strands of DNA.
Could you just
And
repeat that, Deb? Because
from
something dipped out again just then. I'm not sure whether it's
oh,
recorded properly. I don't know.
okay.
Something's going on in the waves.
Interesting. Yeah, so Palawa is a healing modality that works on activating the 12 strands of DNA, and most humans are operating on 2 strands of DNA. So there's a lot of potential that us humans are not accessing. So with Palawa, a little bit like Reiki, it has its own symbols that you need to kind of learn, right?
Hmm.
And that was the doorway for me to start channeling my own symbols. So I started to write symbols after doing Palawa. And then it became this undenying passion. I discovered there's this whole community out there of light light codes, light keepers, people that actually channel codes, speak light language. There's various terminologies that people maybe use for symbols. And yeah, it's just become a bit of a passion of mine. And, I'm wearing one of my symbol t-shirts here.
Oh, do stand up. Do stand up so we can see properly. For those of you watching it on video, stand up. Deb's got it's like, well, for those of you who can't see it, it's it's a square that's in a diamond shape, if you like. And the bottom bits, instead of joining, they go up directly and then to the left and to the right. And then there's a solid circle. And then all the way around the outside rim of the diamond shape, it are lines jutting out as if you're putting eyelashes on, but straight. Does that make sense? I'm not sure that's a very good description, but it makes it look like it's radiating, essentially is what it looks like. So what does that symbol stand
So
for,
this
Deb?
symbol is the cosmic gateway. So it's very
Ah.
much about connecting to the higher realms.
Mm-hmm.
And, many of us obviously are connected to, the cosmos, the galaxies, etc. So it is about connecting to those higher realms.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now I'm learning something today. Yes, I didn't know some. I mean, I've always been fascinated with symbols. I think, there's so many. Historically, when you go
Mm.
back centuries and centuries and centuries, there's always hieroglyphics and symbols and things that represent other, well, letters, aren't they? Letters and words. It's all symbolic, isn't it? It represents something so you can convey and you can communicate. But there's a whole world clearly to uncover and discover it. I'm going to have to start to get a little bit more curious. I keep on buying books, but then they get put to one side. But I'm fascinated, with how you've channeled that and how you use it, and because you've got a game that you've created as well that you've incorporated your symbols into as well, which I have had folks the absolute delight and pleasure of actually, I don't like to call it playing the game, but it is a game, the game of insight, which is just brilliant because it takes you on a journey of self-discovery whilst you're interacting with other players in inverted commas. And you've got to be open and receptive to the guidance that's coming through, haven't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, the game is very much, you've described it perfectly.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you.
Sarah. It is very much about self-discovery through auras, chakras, and intuition. So, I do have it here just to show people so they can get an idea. But yeah,
Awesome.
it's very much about that, and it's just like a kind of like, a tarot deck. You always get the information you need at that particular time, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
everything is energy, and it is in the hands of the player as to what they pick in regards to the place that they land on, so to speak. So yeah, they're very much, I guess they could say they're in control, but I guess there's a higher purpose, and who's actually in control of anything, really.
Exactly.
But
We're all in a
yeah,
computer game, Deb. That's what it is.
that's right.
We're under this misconception that we're in control of our own lives, but actually there's somebody up there. The Big Bang Theory. It was just somebody putting the computer on.
Yeah, let's reset that button sometimes.
Exactly.
Oh,
But
I'm ready for round two. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, you alluded to the relationship breakdown that you had. I mean, I went on that journey 20 years ago when my 20-year relationship marriage ended. And you
Mm,
do. I mean, I've been on a massive journey of self-discovery. And I say self-discovery, and you probably will echo this. It's actually finding who's already there, who's within you already. I was like a
mm,
sponge. I was absorbing so much, but what it was resonating with me. It was like, oh, that's why I feel like this. That's why I feel like that. Oh, that's got a name, and I understood the whole energy thing before I understood
mm.
and heard about Reiki or the law of attraction that suddenly everybody was talking about because the book came about, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not the only person that thinks like this then. And now I've got a global connection of people that are like-minded, which again is so important, isn't it? But you just go on this journey, and once you're on it, it's just you can't stop because you just want to keep on learning. A bit like you've just told me about, the symbols and the channeling and of the symbols, not channeling, because I mean I do
Mm,
channel myself, but it's
mm,
fascinating stuff. But you've got to be, like we've said before, open to it.
mm.
And it diverts you away from maybe the career, because your career up until all of this interior design, I do believe.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So 20 plus years of that. And yeah, so Palo was just the first modality, but there's been, obviously, like yourself, you've probably done multiple courses and things. I've had
Yes.
multiple modalities under my sleeve, and at the moment, I'm still curious. I think when we're not curious is when we die
Mm.
on the inside,
Yes.
right? So we're constantly learning, and I am sort of got my eyes open and curious on a few different other modalities that I'm looking into at the moment. So I'm going to just
Oh,
see what feels in alignment there.
that
Yeah.
sounds fascinating. What can you sort of give us a little bit more of a, a hint about what you're looking into there, Deb? That sounds.
Okay.
I am being curious.
Curious. Yeah. So I'm looking at there's something called NLK, which is a cross between NLP and kinesiology. So
Okay.
I've done forensic healing, which kind of uses a system very similar to kinesiology. So again, I don't know if that's already got or already very similar to one of the modalities I'm trained in. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure yet. And there's also some other more you know, neuro science type of courses.
Hmm.
And then there's the more streamline counseling, and then there's the more holistic counseling. So there's quite a few different options that I'm exploring at the
Hmm.
moment. And I'm just going to see if any of those land, I guess,
Yeah.
because ultimately it's a matter of adding to the toolkit, isn't
Yeah.
it? If it's really going to add, or if it's just another rebrand of something that I already kind of know how to do anyway. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of
Absolutely.
doing the research, and that's where I'm
Yes,
at.
absolutely. I'm very much, well, having discovered that I'd been at I don't know how the best way to describe it. My ex-husband and my son are both narcissists. That's probably the simplest way of saying it. And I didn't realize that until last year. And once I discovered it, I went on a whole journey after breakdowns of actual healing somatically from narcissistic abuse, because I hadn't understood it up until that
Mm,
point. Could never really understand this lack of appreciation and gratitude, high level of expectation and entitlement. And once everything sort of fell into place, I went, now I get it. Now I understand. That explains it. It doesn't excuse it, but you cannot reason with a narcissist. And it's just, it is what it is. I've had to do the healing. I've had to go through all of that. However, that is something that I would like to train in, given the time, a
mm,
level 7 course in narcissism and trauma therapy, because I think that would help me help others more. But I think what I've also gone through myself, when you've gone through something like that and you understand it and you recognize it, and you can signpost people and say, look, avoid, avoid, because they play with your minds, and
mm,
you'd start to think, maybe they are right. Maybe I am this dreadful person. Maybe I am this awful person. And the mind, as we know, you
yeah.
do have to be very mindful of the tricks the mind can play on you, which is when it comes back to all this self-discovery journey that we're on, that you realize that we aren't our thoughts, words, and actions. You can you can take a step back from that, and you can observe your thoughts. And this is why you can change and reshape when you trust a practitioner to help you go through that process and release stuff that doesn't serve you, which again comes down to the somatic healing, which is really powerful as well. So it's
Yes, it is indeed.
fascinating world we're inhabiting, Deb.
I know, indeed, indeed, yes.
Yeah. So what do you right at this moment in time then, that you work very much on a one-to-one basis with clients? Then you obviously, as we've said, that you're on Insight Timer, and I think you do the lives on Insight Timer as well, don't you, as well?
Yes, so I tend to go weekly live on Insight Timer. It's usually Monday, 9:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time. I do have to switch every fortnight for the next few weeks for that to a Sunday at the same time, 9:15 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. So yes, I go live weekly, and that's a weekly collective card pull. And then I sometimes pull individual cards, or I just go with the flow. I used to do my mini orange chakra oracle readings on those lives. But I'm also conscious of how much I give of myself,
Yeah.
and so I've kind of pulled back a little bit of that, and I'm mixing it up a little bit. So sometimes I do. So it's really interesting, because when I just pull a card for a person, then it usually feeds on from the collective card pull, and then I pull a card for another person, and there's usually a bit of a story that unfolds. So it's really interesting how, obviously everyone on the live is drawn to that particular live at that particular time, and there's usually new people every time. There's obviously a couple of regulars, but typically speaking, there's a lot of new people that show up. And yeah, I do love going live on Insight Timer. It
Mm,
always feels like such a safe, loving community,
yeah.
so I do like showing up there live.
Mm. Well, as I've said previously, I mean, I've loved doing my lives, but at the moment there seems to be some sort of technical issue that's preventing me. What's going on? I don't know, but I'm taking that as a sign to actually take a step back and focus in on other things myself. But I really do echo your sentiment there that the community
Mm.
I think I need some more fluids. That community is great, and it's lovely to actually be
Mm.
able to connect with people live globally, but actually via your live, you're there doing your thing, but people can just communicate with you sort of by the chat box, so you're not faced with lots of faces, are you? But you can then just
No.
keep an eye on the feed, and you can deliver your content, which is absolutely brilliant. And as you say, once you've got in, when you're in that flow, it just all comes through, doesn't it? That's when you're trusting yourself as well, trusting in, you believe in what you believe, and you trust implicitly. And then because you trust in yourself, other people will trust in you too. And that's the magic, and that's the beauty of it as well. But yeah, it's
Absolutely.
fantastic. But what I will do for anybody
Mhm.
listening, be it on YouTube or on my Harnessing Happiness podcast, is put the contact details for Deb and her Insight Timer profile in the bio bits and bobs, so you'll be able to connect with her and follow her on the Insight Timer too. Love to. Got to plug myself
Absolutely.
as well, Deb.
Yes, of
Exactly,
course.
exactly, exactly. Oh, blimey. So do you do this? Are you full time with all of this at the moment, or are you sort of blending it now, like a lot of us do, with other things in our lives? Because I mean, I do Insight Timer, I do coaching, I've got obviously I've got a podcast, YouTube channel, I've got an Instagram account, I've got all sorts of things that keep me busy.
Yeah, it's certainly not a full-time job at this stage. I would like it to be, and that's what I'm building towards. In the process of creating a program, which is about more the quantum healing and teaching a lot of the skills, and the intuitive arts method, which is my unique method through using the symbols, but also intuitive art as a healing tool. So yeah, I'm in the process of creating that and the healing manual for that, and building that. And as you know, building programs is quite time consuming.
Yes, indeed,
So
indeed.
yeah, so that's what I've been working on. So to answer your question before, I do work one-on-one, and I do work in groups, and all my work is online. I have done workshops in person, etc. before, but I online's easy, and I like being online, and I like a global audience, just like you too,
Hmm.
Sarah. So
Yeah,
why
no.
restrict ourselves to location, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I love it. I mean, I've got clients on a coaching perspective from Canada down to France, across to Italy and Spain. Got connections in Australia, obviously, or South Africa, stuff like Hong Kong. And when I look at where my podcast is downloaded, literally I mean, when we moved house, I had to take all the pins out my pin board. I've got one of these big maps that you can
Oh, yeah.
pin into. And so I had to take all the pins out. The map's on the wall, and I now need to re-put all the pins back in. But it's always been fascinating to go, well, where's that then? So apologies if I didn't know where where anybody was, but it's, as I've said right at the beginning, it's like it's a great opportunity to further my knowledge of the globe of where people listen, and it's fascinating. Some people are off grid as well, so where they are, I have no idea,
Ah,
which is
maybe they don't want you to
they
know.
don't want us to know. But I'm thrilled. It's been downloaded over 44,000 times and in over 130
Wow.
countries, which is brilliant. So thank you all for listening wherever you are, and please do get in touch. And actually, talking of that, Deb, how do people, yes, we will put the details into the comments, but how do people get in touch with you? Where will they find
Sure.
you?
My website is wisdomarts.com.au, and Insight Timer, I'm Deb Flanagan 21, I think it is, on Insight Timer. At the moment, I'm unsure about Facebook, so I won't share that. So probably
Sure.
best is through Insight Timer, and for my free content, it's all free at the moment on there, and also through my website if they want to know more about my offerings.
Cool. That's absolutely
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with you. I mean, obviously, I could actually talk for hours. It's
We could, I'm
fascinating stuff.
sure.
And actually, what I would really like to do is, in fact, let's put it out there. Let's come over to Australia and see you and play the game in person, because I think, yes, it's great having the global, excuse me, having the global audience. But sometimes, being in person is just brilliant, isn't it? Just
That is true.
seeing people in person. And I think we've fallen out of the habit of that because of the COVID years.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, let's use all the things that we've got. And like you said, we can connect without even speaking if we choose to. Sending it over to you, Deb. Sending it over. Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for being a fabulous, fabulous guest. I hope you've all enjoyed listening. And yeah, please do download, subscribe, make sure you never miss an episode. You can find me over on sarahjnaylor.com or on Insight Timer. I think I'm Sarah J. Naylor or Sarah Naylor on Insight Timer as well. Anyway, I'll pop all the details in the comments below. But thank you for listening, and take care, and look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care, everyone. Lots of love from me and Deb. Goodbye now.
Bye.